Now streaming live on Facebook. All righty. Hey, well, good afternoon, Atlanta and Metro Atlanta. My name is Kimberly King. I'm a part of the League of Women Voters of Atlanta, Fulton County, and it's my honor and pleasure to welcome you to our inaugural forum for this election season, where we're going to hear from some super folks that want to serve on our Atlanta City Council. In particular, these great candidates who are all community leaders, I'm sure you've seen them out and about way before they have declared their intent to run for office, are seeking to serve in the at-large seats for number 3, District 3. So just a little bit about what the Atlanta City Council does for those that don't know. It's not the mayor, but they work closely with the mayor. They make the laws that govern our great city. They help develop the policies, the standards, and ordinances that tell us what we can and cannot do in the city of Atlanta. So they are very important, you know, their policies and procedures. And in the case of the at-large seats, they control an even larger area. So you definitely want to know these folks, and you want to make sure you select folks that are ready to represent you and work very hard collectively and individually to keep Atlanta the best city in the universe. And I didn't say that just because I was born here. So with that, just to keep this program moving, we're so honored to have as our moderator today, our president, Nicola Hines. A little bit about Nicola. She is what I call like an imported peach. She was born and raised in New York, but she relocated to Atlanta in 2013. She's the founder of Hines Hospitality, a hospitality consulting firm that specializes in project and operations management, concept development, food and lifestyle beverages experience, and so much more. She's super talented in this area and many others. She has an extensive background in the hospitality industry with over 18 years of experience, even though she looks like she just stepped off the campus of USC. She's worked for major food and beverage companies such as Carlson Restaurants, Levy Restaurants, in the Delaware North, which if you were over the airport, you know, they own a lot of properties there. She has a dual degree with a concentration in social science and emphasis on economics and sociology from the University of Southern California. Go Trojans. She also has a professional diploma in restaurant management and from the Art Institute of New York. And she's also a certified hospitality department trainer. In terms of her service here, Nicola has been a member of the League of Women Voters since 2016. She was elected to serve as our president in May of 2020, and she's been busy since she was sworn in. She currently also serves as the chair of the City of Atlanta's governing board for the Office of Inspector General. We probably used to know it as the Board of Ethics, and represents the league there. And she also she serves on the league state board. She's an immediate past president of the USC Alumni Club and an active member of Delta Sigma Theta sorority, and where she serves on lots of committees. So with that, and tonight, she's also your moderator. So with that, it's my pleasure to ask everyone to clap where you are. But let's give it up for Nicola and the candidates. You're gonna hear some great questions from some great folks. So Nicola, it's on to you.
Thank you so much, Kim, for that introduction, and appreciate it. Thank you, candidates, for coming on board and being part of our candidate forum. For everyone, this is our kickoff series, our first forum that we are doing in the next 30 days. So we're super excited to have every candidate here represented. Just to kind of briefly let you know, I will be doing this in alphabetical order, starting with candidate Labatt with the questions, and then circulating around until we finish our Q&A session. Each one of you, the candidates will have 1 minute to do an opening statement, and then you'll also have 1 minute to do your closing statement. And then you'll have up to 1 minute for each question when it's your turn to ask. So we will go in alphabetical order with the opening statements. So candidate Labatt, it's on to you.
Okay, good evening, everybody. I am Jackie Labatt. I am a native Atlantan, born and raised in Southwest Atlanta. Actually attended Roswell High School and went on to Hampton University and obtained my bachelor's degree in biology. I moved back to Atlanta and worked in corporate America with a number of Fortune 500 execs around the city. Most proud of having worked with Mrs. Coretta Scott King for some time as her chief of staff and executive assistant. My husband Patrick and I reside in Midwest Cascade. We have a blended family of 4 and 2 rescue pups. I'm running for Atlanta City Council because my overarching goal is to positively impact the quality of life for those we serve. I feel like every elected official should be saying that we want to do everything we can to improve your quality of life. Thank you.
Thank you. Next will be Mr. Long, candidate Long.
Thank you for that. My name is Ralph Long. I'm a lifer in Atlanta. I reside off of Peyton Road in Southwest Atlanta, proudly call Atlanta my home. I went to Douglas High School, transferred and graduated kind of in Campbell High School. Parents went through a divorce at that moment right there. Come from a family of a long lineage of people in Atlanta. My aunt was the first Black woman on city council, and I am a former state representative, and I graduated Campbell High School and went to the Art Institute with an interior design. I currently own the District Realty. I'm a real estate broker. I've been selling real estate for 20 years and love interior design and always appreciate service. I'm here for you. My cell number is 770-616-2130. And I want to serve because I'm a public servant, and I prefer public servant as opposed to politician or anything else like that. And that's what I did as a State House District 61 state representative. And I'm just really glad to be here. Thank you so much. Look forward to your questions.
Thank you, candidate Long. Next up is candidate Meriday. You're muted, candidate.
There we go. Good evening. My name is Jody Meriday. I as well am a native Atlantan, born and raised, attended Warren T. Jackson for elementary, Sutton Middle, and Douglas for high school. It's been my pleasure to serve Atlanta. I was appointed ombudsman to Atlanta Public Schools following the cheating scandal. As we are looking at navigating through a pandemic and electing leadership that will come with skill and expertise, I present myself for service. It's very important to me in relationship to my platform to present to you all that I will intend to promote public safety and criminal justice reform, that it will be incredibly important to me to ensure that we partner with Atlanta Public Schools and revitalize businesses, that we improve roads and transit so that we can connect neighborhoods together and create economic opportunity, fund and avail affordable housing, and lastly, look at increasing services to our seniors, protecting them and protecting the environment. I'm here to offer myself as a candidate. You may find out more about me at jodymeriday.com. Thank you for this opportunity.
Okay. Thank you, candidate. Next will be candidate Waits.
Thank you. I appreciate our host and creating this opportunity so that we can get together and exchange ideas. COVID-19 has certainly changed the way all of us live, work, and play. And so we're dealing with some very serious issues here in our city. Like many of my colleagues, I grew up right here in the city of Atlanta. I would say to you, in 2001, I recall public safety being the #1 issue then, and a promise of hiring a bunch of police officers was made and the charge was given. The reality is this, is that our city is becoming one of have and have nots. And I am committed to addressing some of the issues that my colleagues have mentioned now: affordable housing, gridlock, traffic congestion. And certainly no one wants to be in a situation where we are dealing with violent crime personally. I think my time is up. So I look forward to the conversation tonight, and I'm excited to be here.
Thank you so much, candidate. And last but not least, candidate Williams.
Hi, I'm Sherry Williams, and I'm excited about throwing my hat in the ring to be Atlanta City Council, Post 3 at large, a citywide position. I'm serious about Atlanta's future. I think it is no longer acceptable for the city that is the home, the birthplace of Martin Luther King Jr. and the home of civil rights to be the tale of two cities. We need to have serious leadership. We need people who are willing to roll up their sleeves and talk to the people, be accessible to the people, and to pass policies that will improve the quality of life for all Atlanta residents, not just some of them. The city as a whole has been failing all of its residents, and my candidacy is to stop that dead in its tracks. I am a 4-time breast cancer survivor. I am going to fight for Atlanta residents the same way I fought each and every time when I got a breast cancer diagnosis, even when it didn't look good. I kept fighting until the end, and I'm still here today for such a time as this. I look forward to the opportunity to serve you, and thank you for this opportunity.
No problem. Thank you once again, candidates. I'm not going to waste much time. We're going to go ahead and get deep and dirty into these questions that I have for you guys. I've been researching my stats. I'm ready for you. I hope you're ready for me. So let's go ahead and start. We had a couple of the candidates already mention about crime and public safety. So I'm going to start off with the crime. Crime in Atlanta has hit national news, as we all know. So in 2020, Atlanta, the city saw 29 murders, 172 shootings, 626 aggravated assaults, 33 rapes, and 255 robberies in 1 year. What solution do you have to reduce crime and improve public safety? We'll start off with candidate Labat. You got it. Yeah.
Okay,
There you
here,
go.
couldn't get my mute button. Great question, thank you. I was very intentional about setting my platform based on voter and constituent input, not just coming up with hashtags and political phrases. So there is no way around it. In Atlanta, crime and public safety is the #1 issue that is concerning to people. And I do think it's very important that we talk about crime and crimes of opportunity versus crimes of passion. So when you talk about the crimes of passion, because social media is what it is, we see a lot of headlines. That's not something we can really police. What we do need to police are the crimes of opportunity. Atlanta has become a hub of opportunity for crime. And in doing that, in fighting it, we need to fully staff our police force. We need to be creative in terms of incentives and incentive programs to recruit and retain the best talent. We need to incentivize our police and fire in terms of resources and equipment and providing the best that there is. And we need to improve trust with the community.
Thank you, candidate Labat. Next in order will be at candidate Long.
Thank you for that question. I am appalled at crime right now. I'm for the first time in my life, being a lifer here, I'm actually scared on the recent highways murders that we've had driving in our car. Is shocking and and disheartening, to be honest with you. I used to feel safe and I don't anymore. So when I was a state rep, I patrolled my district and I got involved with and knew who my police officers are. Not only do we have to hire police officers and demand more professionalism from our police department and keep it, where our police, we're retaining our police officers like candidate Labat stated. We need to, in addition, change the culture in Atlanta and get into our early grades and make higher investments in education. In my area where I was a state rep, our education system was just so bad. And I think Atlanta, and I was the first and the only state representative to ask for our superintendent at the time to resign. And I caught a lot of heat for that because of our schools weren't servicing our need. And I think we are now living that up with some of these kids who have been disenfranchised out of their education. They have nowhere to go. They don't have any skills. In Georgia, we have a beautiful technical college system. Our colleges are Atlanta Metropolitan College. We have beautiful opportunities available, but if without education and without knowledge and actually being an elected official and having the responsibility to get out and show people those opportunities, what good are they? And I think we have.
Oh, sorry.
Okay,
thank you.
I
Thank you, candidate
all
Long.
day with that. Sorry about that.
It's okay. We're going to go ahead and go to candidate Meriday.
Thank you. We can't arrest our way out of crime. Crime is the symptom. It's a symbolic symptom of institutional and systemic inequities that we actually have to get pragmatically to the source of, which include but are not limited to, of course, education, starting in the early years, pre-K, with systemically ensuring that there's equitable access to education throughout the course of a child's life and study, affordable housing, If you live in the city of Atlanta currently and you are in minimum wage, you cannot afford a home. We've got to address the systemic and institutional factors, including, again, let me add another layer to the trifecta, which is transportation. We've got to have a transportation infrastructure that bridges the southeast and southwest to the northwest and northeast and the opportunities contained therein. And of course, recruiting, retaining, promoting, and training more officers is critical. That need probably will be somewhere around 750 to 800, but they've got to be invested in the systemic partnership with communities and persons to actually move forward.
Thank you, Candidate Meraday. We'll move on to Candidate Waits.
Absolutely. Certainly, and my colleague has already stated that there's a direct relationship between crime, poverty, and education. I had the pleasure of serving on the Public Safety Committee during my tenure as a state representative in the Georgia General Assembly, responsible for vetting policy and legislation before it came to the floor. And I truly believe attrition is the #1 reason why we're having the challenges that we're having. We're losing many of our officers to surrounding cities and counties. And I think that there's a morale and a leadership issue there. Secondly, I think that we've got to be willing to address the elephant in the room, and that is juvenile crime. That is a very serious issue. And we've tried to tackle that many times at the state level. And for whatever reason, that is a reoccurring issue. And the last thing that I will leave you with is this: we've got to compensate people in a way that would make the job worth going to every single day. I don't believe people wake up and become an officer for pay, but I do believe that when you cannot feed your family, that's a major factor in terms of your morale. So I think that we've got to compensate our officers. That's something that is competitive with our neighboring cities as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Candidate Waits. And Candidate Williams, same question to you.
Hi, thank you. In order to improve public safety, I'm a strong advocate for community policing and also for police reform. As a graduate of the Atlanta Citizens Police Academy, I know firsthand by wearing a bulletproof vest, driving around our cities, how scary it can be sometimes, especially when it's a domestic call. I believe we need to get to the root of the problem of systemic racism. Putting more guns on the street is not the solution. Community policing will solve that. President Obama had it right when he did his study on 21st century policing. At the root of that is community policing. But we also need to deal with the 150 gangs that are terrorizing Atlanta from Bankhead to Buckhead. We need a strong policy against gangs and a strong policy to get more guns off the street. And I also believe that we need policies to help our young people that are prevention instead of making them criminals for the rest of their lives.
Thank you so much, Candidate Williams. So since we are talking about police and we are on a crime subject, since the killing of George Floyd, the slogan "Defund the Police" has been heard across the nation. In your own words, what does that mean to you? And what would it look like for the city of Atlanta? So this is a two-part question. And that starts off with Candidate Long.
Well, that means that, I guess, from their point of view, defunding the police. But I have a different take on that. I don't think that's possible now, and I'll be bold enough to say that. I think that we need to hire better police officers who are more respectful of people who don't look like each other, you know, who don't look like the police officers, or just more professional police officers. We need our police. Like I said earlier, we are scared on the highway. Things are a little wild out there, and people are, you know, we just need better police officers, more professional police officers, I think. So the defunding issue, I think, was misplaced. And maybe for, you know, they were coming from a perspective with the militarized kind of tanks and things that the police officers had before that. We don't need things like that. But we need an understanding of people and the concept of people and jobs and jobs and jobs, and getting to education and reprioritizing our culture is what Atlanta needs. And that's just my answer to that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Candidate Long. Candidate Meraday, same question to you.
The word defund definitely was a dog whistle that led a lot of people to misunderstand that the call from the activist community was truly appropriation of resources for prevention and looking at budgets and the systemic and institutional factors and making certain that we were as robustly funding the opportunities to prevent crime as we were the measures on the other end that are meant to be punitive. I think there was also a strong thematic piece around decriminalization and the resources that are allocated towards things that really should not necessarily necessitate someone being locked up, arrested, or incarcerated on because they've executed this. So, in relationship to the word, again, I support robustly funding what stabilizes our institutions in a way that we are dealing with equity and inclusion and belonging from a community-based perspective.
Thank you so much, Candidate Meriday. Candidate Waite, question goes to you.
Sure, thank you. If you have ever experienced any violent crime in the city, whether it be a carjacking or you had your home burglarized, many of you recall recently the riots that took place some time ago and a restaurant being set on fire. So the idea somehow that we're going to address crime by taking away from our policing budgets, I think is somewhat naive. I think we're all intimately aware of the challenges that we've had with some law enforcement officials. I don't believe all law enforcement officials are corrupt and bad people. But I do believe diversion programs have been successful, drug courts and things of that nature. And as my colleague alluded to, we can't just lock up a bunch of folks. But the reality is, I do believe that community policing will be important in establishing a different tone and a different relationship and addressing morale. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Candidate Waits. Candidate Williams?
Hi, thank you for that question. I think the term defund the police was meant to sound good, a good soundbite. I'm not sure that people really understand what the consequences of that would be, because we do need our police. But what we don't need is an us versus them. We really have got to come together. When I grew up here in Atlanta, Georgia, there was a such thing as officer friendly. Today, we see that most kids come in contact with the police when they come to their homes to arrest someone they love. So the disconnect starts very early. As a member of the Atlanta Citizens Review Board for 7 years and the chair of that board for 2 years, I've also seen complaints filed against police, some of them frivolous and some of them atrocious. So I believe that we need to bring all of the stakeholders to the table. We need to use best practices, and we also need to take the responsibilities away from the police that they didn't need to have in the first place. For example, if there's a clear mental health crisis, we need to send the Grady crisis team there. We need
Thank
to.
you. Oh, sorry. Sorry, Candidate Williams. Candidate Labat, same question to you.
Yes, so I do believe that we live in a society of hashtags, and it did become quite the slogan and the catchphrase. And in reading through some of the rationale, there are people on the defund the police polar opposite end of things that want to do away with the police. Obviously, I think, yes, that is a naive approach. I think even some of our city council leaders who voted to defund the police, when asked about it now in the election process, are now clarifying what they meant. And really the true intent, it should not be mutually exclusive, holding the police accountable to do the job that we all have hired them and trust them to do, and supporting them. I think it's a tough job, and that those with a sincere heart to work and connect with the community to serve and protect will do just that. And we need to support police and stay away from hashtags.
Okay, sounds good. And Candidate Long. Oh, sorry, I started off with you. Sorry, do apologize.
Yeah, I can go twice on it now.
No, it's okay. Sorry. Okay, next, we'll start with Candidate Meriday on this. So we're going to change the topics a little bit. Going into housing, as we know, that's another hot button here in the city of Atlanta. Too many Atlantans, particularly those in the communities of color, struggle to find adequate healthy, and affordable housing for their families. It is a dilemma that leaves some residents floundering financially, facing evictions, or relocating beyond city limits. The city has added more than 17,000 housing units in recent years, but only a few of these new units are affordable. Between the years of 2010 and 2018, only 3,000 of those homes were $1,000 or under. Mm-hmm. And according to statistics, most Atlantans' household income is $50,000 a year. Mm-hmm. So Atlanta neighborhoods are becoming not affordable. What is your solution to provide more affordable housing? And how would you protect legacy residents from being priced out of their home due to rising property taxes? And that will go to candidate Meriday to start off.
In relationship to the legacy residents, I think that there needs to be a moratorium on the housing for many of our seniors that have resided in their homes for in excess of 20 years. I think they should also receive grants and subsidies for repairs and to support them remaining in their home. In reference to addressing the affordable housing issue, big picture, it's not a struggle. The truth is, livable wage earning people cannot live in the city of Atlanta, period. And if I'm elected to city council, I will be aggressively and assertively ensuring that we use the appropriated bond funding to provide more affordable housing units and subsidize families who, based upon earning potential, just need the hand up of $300 or $400 a month to subsidize living in a good place that is safe for them and their family. I think that's where we start. Again, in 60 seconds, answering a dissertation related question is hard, but that's where I certainly would begin.
Thank you so much. You're going to candidate Waits, same question.
Absolutely. I further echo that point, and that is numerous developers have come into our city and been given tax abatements as well as incentives to build. However, they have not made good upon those community benefit agreements. And I think that there's where there's an opportunity to ensure, if you're going to have a set aside or ensure that a certain percentage of housing is going to be made available for affordable housing and low income families, we have to make good on that. So you have to hold these folks accountable. So that's one thing. Secondly, the city of Atlanta is a very large landholder. I think there's a tremendous opportunity to take advantage of existing abandoned property, property that's been foreclosed on, that has these massive water bills, multifamily housing, and partner with HUD as well as the state of Georgia to create real, true affordable housing opportunities. I know in my neighborhood over in District 12, they're currently building homes around the 250,000 mark. And certainly we all know that that's not something that someone making under a certain salary will be able to afford. And so I think we've got to be very serious and intentional regarding our commitment to addressing affordable housing.
Thank you so much, candidate Waits. Candidate Williams. You made it, candidate Williams, there you go.
Thank you for that question. My mother is 82 years old. She's lived in the same house since her and my father moved in 1963. She's on a fixed income. We can't stop gentrification, but we can surely slow it down. And my colleagues have touched on several excellent ideas on how we can do that. But one of the things I think we need to do is we need to make sure that Invest Atlanta does it just that. Invest in Atlanta, in the areas where people have been for decades underserved and disenfranchised. There is a program that they've started in Buckhead, because most of you guys remember the Darlington, the last affordable housing in Buckhead. The Livable Buckhead has a grant from ARC where they are getting employers to subsidize the workers to be able to live in a city. I think we also need to stop giving tax giveaways to large corporations when they come in, because as with the Gulch, that is a joke. And we need long-term affordable housing, not short-term affordable housing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, candidate Williams. Candidate Labat, Same question to you.
Yes, thank you. I do believe that affordable housing and the solutions that we are seeking are going to be multifaceted. When you talk about affordable housing, almost like defunding the police, it's a term. And so what does that mean to you? What does that mean to you? What does that mean to me? What does that mean, you know, for everybody? If we were all to go handbag shopping, well, Ralph, you may not want to, well, you can get Erica a handbag, but you know, what's affordable to me might not be affordable to the next person. And so I think we need multiple tiers of affordable housing to really have an honest dialogue about it. I agree with auditing those who have said they are going to provide affordable housing, and in some cases they may not have. I agree with building on city land, but I think we need to look at, you know, what's affordable to an hourly wage earner. Is it affordable in terms of rent? Is it affordable in terms of mortgages? What sides of town will this plan work? What sides of town will that plan work? And I can assure you, everybody on every side will have to compromise.
Okay, thank you so much. And Candidate Long, question to you.
Yes, I like candidate Labat's answer to that. And for the most part, as a real estate broker, I'm on the front line of that. We need to incentivize the sellers to reach towards first-time home buyers too in the city. That's a major issue because we're losing that opportunity for first-time home buyers to actually be able to purchase. In addition to that, we have to look at Atlanta, the whole circle of Atlanta. There's some areas below I-20 for a long time that, you know, the values have just not gone up, but they were looked over, and people need to really consider looking and living in different parts of the city to utilize their housing needs. And one lastly thing I'd like to do, and it's probably not last, I probably can use more of my time, but I want the homestead exemption to apply to legacy homeowners, to the individual, not the household. My father's being taxed to death in his home because his wife is up in DC and they are a commuting couple. And that's a major issue in Atlanta because it's going to be multifaceted, because there's no one who owns a house right now who's willing to take less for their property with all these properties going high when they want to sell. But at the same time, what is affordable? What is that term affordable? And people have to be educated as to what fee simple ownership means. We need to educate people about what ownership means and what the bundle of rights and what the limitations on the bundle of rights with renting means. And I think people have that information misconstrued because 30310 and 30315 are just now getting their values, you know, and they feel that that's just.
I appreciate it, Candidate Long. Thank you so much. So we're going to switch gears a little bit. Well, not so much little, because we're talking about affordable housing, right? So let's talk about jobs and poverty and homelessness in the city. The Atlanta region is a leader in job growth. We've seen that, right? But too many good jobs are going unfilled. More than half of the advertised jobs in our region require at least a bachelor's degree, while only 35% of residents over the age of 25 meet that requirement. At the same time, some residents aren't getting the skills needed to land a well-paying job. What is your solution to help break this cycle of underskilled, low-paying employment that so many city residents are facing today? And I believe that is going to Candidate Watts. Waits.
That's perfectly fine. So I think we have a leadership issue there that needs to be addressed. As many of you are aware, the city of Atlanta sent back millions of dollars that were underutilized or not utilized at all through workforce development. So that's a major problem. There's been a massive turnover in that role with every single administration. And this is not anything to point fingers or place blame, but the reality is that when you are elected, you're elected to deliver results. So I think that that's an area where we have certainly failed our community. And so I believe that we need to go back and resolicit those funds and make sure that we have individuals who actually have the training and expertise to do this work. I think there's a tremendous opportunity to partner with a lot of our local hiring companies and job headhunters in Atlanta to make sure that we're actually giving people the training that we need. As I've indicated, COVID-19 has changed a lot in terms of the way that we do business. The fact that we're here in this forum utilizing technology is an example of that. And so I think that we need to figure out how we put people to work in terms of utilizing green jobs, skills of that nature, and more technological opportunities to get the training people need. Thank you.
Thank you so much, candidate. Candidate Williams, the same question goes to you.
Thank you for that question. Part of my platform is that we need to make sure that we have training that is reflective, that is truly reflective of the jobs that are currently in demand, as well as those that are forecasted to be in demand in the future, so there won't be this disconnect. I believe that the best trainer of jobs are our unions. They are valuable assets, and they do training almost better than anyone else. Well, better than anyone else. Let's face it, the percentage of our high school kids that are going to college is not 100%, it's not 80%, it's not 60%. So we need to make sure that everyone can have a livable wage and skill, so that they can be good contributors to the community. We need to remember that job training used to be in our high schools. Now it is in our junior colleges. So we need to make sure that everyone has access to it.
Thank you so much, Candidate Williams. I appreciate that. Candidate Labat, same question goes to you.
Yes, so that's a major part of my youth empowerment platform, which is to engage, empower, educate, and employ our youth, because not all of our youth are going to take a pathway that's going to take them to a 4-year or even a 2-year degree. And I think we start very early. We start maybe at 10, with these kids, and we have them either career shadow, or we have them actually do a month-long internship or a whole summer internship, but work with our corporate partners and really also provide upward mobility training within the city. So maybe you're at an hourly job, but now you have a family and you can't afford that. So when I met with the unions, AFSCME and FPSE, who both endorsed me, that was a huge problem. They want to be able to live in the city and they want to be able to earn that wage. But I do believe it's incumbent upon employers to grow your employees to the next level of leadership.
Thank you. Candidate Long.
Thank you. Education. We need to get into the early grades and change the culture to having a can-do attitude too. A lot of people just don't want to work. And we need to incentivize them to have a can-do attitude about working and to be educated as to what resources that are available for them in their community. For instance, at Atlanta Technical College, Atlanta Metropolitan College, there are some great technical trade schools there that they can actually go to right there in their community, but they're shunned sometimes. Our technical colleges are shunned. So if we got into the early grades and incentivize folks to have a can-do attitude about working, because when I was a kid, my school was adopted by a bank, and they would pick the trajectory and line up a trajectory. And Nabisco did the same thing in elementary school. We need to get back to those root programs that do that, and those corporations that invest in schools and early grades, so that kids can have an idea of this is what I want to do a little earlier than what's going on now.
Okay, thank you so much, Candidate Long. Candidate Meriday.
I think, excuse me, private sector partnerships are going to be incredibly important. I have a vision for a program called GED ATL to ensure that we uplift the baseline of academic preparation of all Atlantans. By way of that program, I see a partnership also with the University System of Georgia. I've spent 30 years in higher and public education trying to bridge what we're doing in those primary years to the post-secondary. I see youth employment programming becoming critical. I had a learner's permit to drive, and I also had a working permit at the age of 15, and through workforce development had a job. I think we've got to look at partnerships with Atlanta Public Schools for youth employment programming, workforce development, as well as mentorship and sponsorship. And I think our private sector partners are at the base of how we execute, because they've got the funds that can be partnered with our municipal government to execute with fidelity the connectivity that we need to change the trajectory of our youth. So again, the programming, GED ATL, youth employment programming through workforce development, and moving forward with connecting that private sector piece that's often missing from our municipal vision.
Thank you so much, Candidate Meredith. Candidate Williams, we're going to start the next question off with you. And since we are on the subject of youth, this question is for, we're going to go with the youth thing. Researchers found that most students need to read proficiently by the end of the 3rd grade to be successful in their future studies and careers. 3rd grade. In the Atlanta region, only 40% of 3rd graders are hitting the mark. How do you plan on working with APS to make sure the next generation of Atlanta residents are prepared to be successful in our city? And it's Candidate Williams.
Thank you for the question. I think we need to start out early as possible with our young people and getting them excited about reading. And I think one of the ways to do that is to expand the number of pre-K slots on the south side of the city. It is horrible that on the north side, you often end up with slots and you have waiting list on the south side. And the people on the south side don't have the transportation to get to the pre-K slots on the north side. So that is a disconnect, and that needs to be remedied. The earlier you go, the better off you are. We also need to deal with the current culture. Babies when they look at their parents' mouths when they're talking, they start to form words because they emulate what they see. Well, today's parents are on their phones, so they don't look at their children when they speak. So we have got to address this from a grassroots level also, as well as doing what we can with more pre-K slots.
Thank you so much, Candidate Williams. Candidate Labat.
Yes, I feel as though our children are getting a disservice, and obviously Atlanta Public Schools is going to have their hands full with COVID and the learning loss that our kids are experiencing. So I do think it's incumbent upon us as elected leaders to partner with APS and to provide as much enrichment, free of cost enrichment across the board, because this can really be a true economic divide as we move forward on this. I believe that a lot of our kids are just being passed along, and that was just pre-COVID to begin with. But I think I do serve on the advisory council for LEAD, and we had a meeting recently where we talked about just exposing kids to different environments to inspire them to want to learn, because oftentimes they just feel like there's this bar, and what's the point? They're not at the top of the class. They're not receiving accolades for, the top performer, but just be engaged and find out there's something in a world outside of what you're used to day in and day out exposure.
Thank you. Candidate Long.
Thank you. The culture. And we can't put all the onus on APS, Atlanta Public School Systems. Our kids are coming to kindergarten without their core fundamentals. They don't know how to add or colors. And we expect our teachers to do everything. We need to read to our children and tell our parents to read to our children all the time. And that's the way you do it. My son has always gone to free public education schools. But my son was always read to at home, and it starts at home. And even though he went into some of the worst schools in 30310, he was able to excel and have his reading score way in the college level at schools that were really simply testing bad, and even on the state list, state's takeover list. So we have to just basically instill in parents to take and prioritize reading to their children more so. And that's a cultural thing in the United States, period. In the United States, period. We prioritize everything above doing what we need to do for our kids, and football is way high on the totem pole as opposed to education. So that's what my take would be on there, working with parents and holding parents accountable for their kids' reading level.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that answer. Candidate Meredith.
Definitely more resources are going to need to be available. I've personally invested in this and immersed myself in the Thorough Cluster by way of the Southwest Atlanta Foundation funding assurances be in place to address learning loss to our kids that the most systemically we're already behind, and when we're looking post-pandemic will be exacerbated in level of need. I'd like to just share, I mean, I funded partnering through summer school for certified teachers, because what we know in terms of their preparation is that dealing with our third graders in particular is manageable. It's a number that we can actually attach dollars to say, what will it cost us collectively to ensure that we are not feeding the prison pipeline in the third grade? And that's just a personal passion of mine as a sociologist and educator. But I do also agree that it has to start pre-K. When I went in with the foundation, providing 5 books to each of the third grade students to build their own personal libraries, what I was told by principals was that it's necessary that I address as well hand-to-mouth issues like kids who don't have shoes or clothes or coats. And so I think we have to look collectively as a city at how we protect, edify, and strengthen all children systemically, so that what we're not finding, again, is education on one side of our city that is incredible, and then education on another side of our city where no matter who you are, you will succeed. So that's my answer to that one. Vision. Yep.
Thank you so much, Candidate Meriday. Thank you. Candidate Wait.
Certainly, it's been echoed many times this evening that there is a relationship between poverty, crime, and education. And I think the APS, we are uniquely positioned to partner. I think that there's an opportunity to disseminate information for employment opportunities, training, housing, as well as food subsidies. In the middle of the pandemic, a lot of the food subsidy programs were given away through our various schools throughout the city. We also talked about public safety. I think the elephant in the room is going to be juvenile crime. And we also have a saga going on in terms of water boys. And so I think that APS is uniquely positioned to address some of the challenges that we've been facing. And as my colleague indicated, certainly we don't want to overwhelm and burden our teachers, but I do believe that we have a chance to have conversations surrounding conflict resolution at grades K through 12. So I'd love to have this further conversation on this.
Sounds good. And you went into my next topic when you started talking about the water boys. So thank you for the transition. So this is going to go back to the top. That's going to go to candidate Labat. You know, we have seen all the young men on the corner. We've all seen them, right? Selling the water, dubbed the water boys. And a lot of organizations over the last year along the city are working hard to provide guidance to these young men. However, what are some solutions do you have to expand youth services, especially for those who don't have necessarily the entrepreneurial spirits? And candidate Labat, that's to you.
Yes. So speaking to the water boy issue, I do believe that that is an example of what can happen and get out of hand when you don't have enough officers. Not that they need to be policed, but it creates pockets of opportunity where the police are just not going to be in every place. Nowhere in Atlanta should anyone be sitting at a red light and their car be shaken left to right because they either are afraid to roll their window down or they've rolled it down, but now they're getting their phone snatched. So I think that we have to reach out to these kids and we need to pour into them early with vocational training, not just academics, so that they can be praised and be engaged in ways that show that they have promise and they can work or they can have some success without having to quote unquote hustle. I do believe we need to partner with community, with our corporate leaders and bring these kids in early on to develop work ethics. Nicola, I think you're muted.
I am. Thank you so much. Sorry about that. Candidate Long.
The water boy issue is dear to my heart because I, was a state rep in 30310, and we've got to stop looking at I'm not going to be afraid of our young men. I'm going to reach out to our young men who are on the corner. I want to make them youth ambassadors and clean up their images. I believe they have a good entrepreneurial spirit because they're at least on the corners trying to sell water. But how can the city work with them to make that a little cleaner and more incentivized or more desirable to the public because they've chosen that particular profession? And why are they out there in the first place? Because we're these parents to allow their kids out there. And I know that those parents are suffering, but it gets into education. I believe that was the cheating scandal. We're getting those kids of that age right there. And our young men are being failed on every aspect. I am raising a young Black son. It pains me as a father to see those young boys have to be out there. And some of them are the primary breadwinners. So we've got to really sit down and not criminalize them, even though instances happen where they are immature and they are making it very nervous on the corners. We have to change how we look at our young men, because we shouldn't fear our own people, even though they are going about things wrong. And that's just immaturity. What can we
Thank you
teach
so much.
these young men?
Thank you so much, Candidate Long. Next, Candidate Meriday.
I think the solution is that we look with fidelity and integrity at youth entrepreneurship opportunities. I think we look at the fact that we are dealing in many instances at this juncture with hand-to-mouth issues with young people who are trying to do what they're doing to get food and are aggravated and agitated by their circumstances and the absence of leadership that connects to them. I look at opportunities through junior achievement in Georgia Pacific, where I think we've got opportunities for the private sector to put their arms around, fund, embrace, and teach them pathways that will render greater success that does not antagonize communities. I think when we're looking at education, I'm going back to the original trio of education, housing, and transportation, so that what we're looking at is introducing our youth to sustainable opportunities where they see a future for themselves and their families and are not creating their own pathways. These young men now have organized, and I don't want to say unionized, but they have in a certain little conglomerate where they're now selling t-shirts for $25 to $30 to legitimize their businesses. So I think we've got to look at youth employment promise and opportunities and private sector.
Thank you so much, Candidate Meriday. Candidate Waits.
So I grew up in an era where it was not unusual to see young people out on the street raising funds. As a former athlete, I can recall football teams, cheerleaders, firefighters, and even the Shriners Club right now today on the north side of town, they raise funds. So this is nothing unusual. The challenge, however, I think in Atlanta is that we have a situation that's somehow gotten out of hand and needs to be addressed from a public safety crisis standpoint. And I like the idea of a special use permit. I love the idea of going through workforce development to train these young men. However, from having conversations with the people who do this every day, the reality is most of the kids who are water boys are not interested in going in learning anything about robotics. There is an unmet need that has to be addressed, and we have to create wraparound services, which is what our colleagues have alluded to most of the evening. And the reality is most of the things that we're going to talk about tonight has everything to do with our commitment. Here in Atlanta, we've made promises for many, many years. We've had African-American leadership for 4 decades. This is really about who is serious about making the commitment to get this work done. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Candidate Williams, question to you.
Thank you. I remember when I was at Charles Lincoln Harper High School during the summer, there was a program called CETA, where we had a choice of different summer jobs so we could have where we received job skills. I think youth entrepreneurship is key. These young men are extremely smart. They have figured out that I can go and buy water and make more selling water during the day than I can working a job making $10 an hour. Now that's genius. So now we need to focus this their energy to areas that are positive, productive, and safe. In order to do that, my colleagues have great examples, and we have to better utilize our resources, and we have to prioritize our funding issues here. Because when people are showing you that they want to work, we need to direct it in a positive direction.
Thank you so much, Candidate Williams. We only get a few more questions from the moderator, so we're going to switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about transit and transportation here in our great city of Atlanta. Transportation technology is changing rapidly, as we've all seen. Cutting edge advancement is here. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. In 2018, Atlanta saw the rise of the electric scooter hitting the streets. But unfortunately, during that time, we also saw deaths of individuals due to the fact that the city wasn't prepared for the influx of the electric modes of transportation. How will you work with your colleagues and the newly formed transportation department to make it safe for all modes of transportation? And that goes to candidate Long to start off.
Thank you. Well, I served on transportation when I was a state representative for State House District 61. I think one initiative that I'd like to do is put sidewalks in Atlanta. Atlanta has high prices of home that wants to grow up now. We need to be a big city, and sidewalks need to be a part of that. When I was on at home locked down for COVID, I noticed a lot of our seniors along here on Peyton Road were walking while traffic and cars were going 50 miles an hour with no sidewalks. And in addition to that, my son had to wait for a bus on Ivy, on a hill. So we've got to move with the people as opposed to changing things. If the people grab something, much like the water boys, if they want to be on the corner, if the people are on scooters, then we really need to quickly regroup and go where the people are going for transportation. And we're too reactive in a way that's negative, taking things away once people have actually engaged in something. I saw people going to work and using those scooters. I saw low-income people riding scooters home. And I thought that was a good thing. And yes, a couple of people were hurt by it, but people die in traffic every day. So it was still a good method of transportation. And we need to fix the Lionel-Hampton Trail and other trails in the city like that are underutilized for different paths. And that's a good way for transportation right there. We're not using our resources and we're not being smart about transportation.
Thank you so much, Candidate Long. Candidate Meriday, question to you.
Yes. I think we have to bridge consensus as representatives. I think we have to look at the existing funding that we have and ensuring that there's integrity and execution and that there's accountability. We've got more MARTA, we've got Renew Atlanta, we've got the potential of Beltline Rail, we've got the Atlanta Beltline, we've got an infrastructure in place that if executed, we then could see major pathways and multiple opportunities for transit to be more successful and offer more opportunities. But it's got to be executed with equity, number one, ensuring that as we overdevelop certain parts of the community, that we don't then disconnect and underdevelop others. There's been too long a lag in relationship to certain corridors of this city in relationship to those connectivities. And so it would be important to me to just have thematically consensus, execution with fidelity and integrity with the money that we already have, and then looking at equity to ensure that we're bridging everyone together, neighborhood by neighborhood.
Thank you so much, Candidate. Candidate Waits.
Thank you. Several years ago here in Georgia, we passed a transit bill that generates about $1 billion per year. By the way, none of that legislation has any minority contracting participation in that, which is something we definitely fought for. So funding is already there for many of the projects that we've answered these surveys for weeks and talked about. Again, we have to have a conversation surrounding will. So Atlanta goes, so does the state of Georgia goes. If Atlanta's not fiscally healthy, our state isn't either. And so we are going to have to do what's necessary and invest in transit. That's one of the reasons that I love the idea of high-speed rail. And I've had this conversation since 2012, dropping legislation to actually move this conversation forward in terms of running rail from the city of Atlanta all the way down to Savannah. So those are some things that I think we need to do. I also love the idea of the Atlanta Beltline Rail, which connects all of our communities and gets people out of vehicles. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Candidate. Candidate Williams, questions to you.
This is definitely my baby, infrastructure, transportation, and transit. I believe that MARTA should be expanded in every way, shape, and form to be more effective and efficient to connect all of its neighborhoods. I also led the charge to get the Greenbrier Hamilton Road leg of Montmartre fully funded. I was also led the charge in getting sidewalks on Campbellton Road between Dobson Drive and Bent Creek, which is right there in front of the Gerald Durley Senior Building. The children could not walk safely up the street to the Adams Park Y or the South Side YMCA, and they have been waiting 40 years for those sidewalks. Well, it took me 2.5 years to get it funded, thanks to ARC bridging the gap from what the city of Atlanta needed. Right now, there are a lot of initiatives with complete streets, and we're going to see shortly Cascade Avenue get their complete streets. They're going to break ground on that before the end of the year. And I think working more closely with all of these partners, including GDOT, we will get what we need, but we have to prioritize our funding and focus it where it's most needed, and that is on the South Side and underserved communities.
Thank you so much, Candidate Williams. And Candidate Labat.
Yes, so much like affordable housing, I believe that transportation will require a multi-pronged approach, because when you look at Atlanta and you look at the daytime population and you look at the nighttime population, and by that I mean all the commuters and the people who come in, people are in their cars. And so there are regional transit solutions that need to be sought. We need to have positive, good, productive working relationships across the board with our local and state and federal partners, just to ensure that our roadways are efficient in terms of mobility, because there are a certain number of people, regardless of the pushes to the belt line and everything else, who are going to be in their cars because they're going to be working at, say, Piedmont Hospital, but living in Hiram, period. We also need to look at pedestrian friendly policies. We need to improve our camera system. We need to hold people accountable just in terms of infractions and congestion. Again, I just think it's a very multi-pronged approach that is going to require compromise from people who are very polarized on opposite ends of the issue. And whatever solutions we find, we need to focus on moving Atlanta and Metro Atlanta forward.
Thank you for that answer. So before I close out, we have one more, I'm going to give you one more moderated question, and then we'll go to our attendees and participants. So this one's dealing with green space. Now, there's been a hot topic called Cop City. You know, last couple of days, weeks, which the proposal had just passed through City Council. The biggest thing is that this location is one of the last areas of undisturbed green space within the 285. What are some of your proposals to keep Atlanta green? And that one starts off with candidate Meriday.
We have to lead by example. The city is the largest consumer of services. So being green and renewable, it will be incredibly important as the primary consumptive entity. So I would definitely be aggressive about ensuring that we are leading by example and we're doing public service awareness and integration to ensure that we are thereafter telling people what are the ways in which they can be on path and on target with sustainability programming, with recycling, and with participating in initiatives that the city is taking the lead on. Protecting the environment has never been more important. I don't think we as humans get to survive for an extended stay further should we not be mindful of our earth. As you can see with the national disasters, floods, and beyond, cognizance is necessary to just ensure that we are not consistently dealing with catastrophes. So those would be my first thoughts.
Thank you, candidate Meriday. Candidate Waits, that goes to you.
I apologize. I don't think I'm clear about the question again. Is it in relationship to my position on parks or Cop City?
Parks, so because the Cop City is taking a lot of green space, meaning, it is already kind of a park with a water stream. So the question is, what are some of your proposals to keep Atlanta green?
Okay, thank you for the clarification. So Atlanta has a number of areas that I think are designated as green space. Several new parks have come online specific to the Rodney Cook Memorial Facility downtown that I'm very pleased with. But there are a number of parks in Atlanta that are actually underutilized for many, many factors. Specific to District 12, some of them are for reasons of crime in terms of drug paraphernalia and various individuals hanging out in those communities that make it less desirable for families to want to travel to. I think this is a good opportunity to have a conversation surrounding where we place cameras. I think our parks is certainly a great area, given the recent tragedies that we've experienced throughout the city. So I think we have existing green space that we can actually get better usage out of once we are able to address some of the public safety issues to make it more friendly for families to utilize. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Candidate Williams?
I think the parks on the south side need to be just as beautiful as the parks on the north side. I think that we have an equity issue here as well as a green space issue here. I think it's a travesty that City Council time and time again is issuing permits to allow clear cutting of land. I think there should be a moratorium placed on it, because if we want Atlanta to truly be green, we keep talking about it, but our actions are actually in the reverse. So we need to put a ban on clear cutting. There is ways to develop land without clear cutting it. Older trees are more needed to help clean our air than young trees. Granted, we need both. We need to stop disturbing these large parcels and tree canopies that other cities would just die for. And it is in our best interest for us also to teach the youth more about being green and why it is important to preserve our tree canopy.
Thank you so much, Candidate Williams. Candidate Labat?
Yes, thank you so much. I do believe that the new West Side Park is a beautiful and excellent example of what Atlanta can and should be doing more of. I feel like all of our youth ought to be safe, and I do believe it should be equitable across the city in terms of resources, in terms of the services that taxpayers receive. I do believe that efficient public transportation will get more cars off the road. And, there are a certain number of people, like I said, who are going to drive, but there are a number of people who want and would take advantage of a cleaner, safer, more secure and well-lit source of public transportation. We can also invest in our bike lanes and pedestrian crossways and so forth, and keep our word on those types of initiatives. And then finally, we should look at incentivizing builders for building healthy, smart buildings, green buildings, in what is going to be eventually a post-COVID world. I think that'll be important.
Thank you so much, Candidate Labat. And Candidate Long?
So I'm going to answer this in a S pattern curve. The police facility that was, we did a disservice to DeKalb, but we weren't good neighbors. I don't approve of that. We could have placed that at Atlanta Technical College, Atlanta Metropolitan College, in different locations. As far as our tree, Atlanta needs better tree management. I applaud Trees Atlanta for the work that they do, and the River Keeper people as well. However, and Atlanta is a jewel compared to outside of Atlanta, because if you go to the country, they've just killed everything. There's nothing but loblolly pines. In Atlanta, we have the best canopy ever because people are consistently planting new trees, and it's actually a rare jewel. However, some seniors and people cannot afford to maintain their trees when their trees are out of control and they're falling on houses. So we just need more education around green space and better management of the trees that we have. And then if we cut them down, we need to replace them in a more smart manner. That's my take on it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Candidate Long. At this point, I believe we do have some questions that has come through from participants. So I am going to turn over the mic to Linda Rigby to ask the questions on behalf of the community. Linda?
Thank you. There are 6 questions and 1 comment, and I'll start with the first one. I'll read slowly because they're very intense, so please listen. So defund the police has been clearly defined and explained as not as an abolishment of police officers, but a reconstruction of police services. For example, sending social workers for mental health calls and domestic disputes involving teenagers. Understanding this message is critical to attract younger progressive voters. Candidates, how are you planning to balance this message with the need for more and better police, as candidate Long noted earlier?
We can start that with candidate Waits, if you want to start.
That was a lot packed in there, so I'll attempt to get to answer the question. Certainly, for this reason, I support. I'm sorry, something's going on out there. The dogs are going crazy. So I support the policing diversion program, which provides resources for a lot of the wraparound services that we were talking about earlier. We know from the criminal reform legislation that happened here in the state of Georgia that locking up people is not necessarily effective. And so for that reason, I support providing greater funding. I don't necessarily know if that means defunding the police, but I think it means simply reallocating resources and moving them around. Finally, morale is a major issue. The law enforcement community cannot do this work alone. They need us as partners to do this work. And so for that reason, I look forward to any conversation that's going to create an opportunity for the community as well as the policing community to partner. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Williams, do you want to make a statement about that?
Of course, being a member of the Citizens Review Board for all those years and being a graduate of the Atlanta Citizens Police Academy, definitely. I think we need to deal with so many people being locked up from nonviolent offenses. As someone said earlier, talked about diversion programs. I think we definitely need to embrace community policing, which is the foundation of the President Obama's 21st century policing strategies. And we need to make sure that people, when they get out of jail, that they are not penalized for life in doing that. And this is part of what's necessary for police reform, as well as a better quality of life for those who have paid their, served their time for whatever crime they were accused of.
Okay, thank you. Next candidate, Candidate Labat.
Yes, so I am a fan of the PAD 311 services and the concept. I think that it should actually be expanded, and I think that it should be exclusive of 311. I think it should be 24/7. I don't think it should be the same number that I called when the trash people the other day ran over our mailbox and knocked it clear off its hinges. I think it should be focused on those nonviolent situations where the police are not necessarily needed. But in doing that, you oftentimes deal with a lot of mental health crises, and we need mental health resources. When you look around, it should not just be in a jail. And, you know, Atlanta is very, very good about working with our corporate partners when we really want to build something. And I believe we can and should devote more time, energy, and money into those resources that will take that burden off of the police.
Candidate Long, I know you were quoted in this question, but if you want to add something.
Yes, I do. Yeah, and I appreciate the quote and the question. We just all need to be better stewards and do what we're going to say we're going to do. And that's why, as a state rep, a former state rep, I always gave out my cell, which was 770-616-2130, because I was serious about hearing from the community to solve complex issues like this. But unfortunately, in Atlanta, we have a lot of ulterior motives behind everything we do. So we've been humans for a long time, and some of these issues that are coming up, we should have mastered these things right here. I want accountability with the public, as well as accountability with our police. And by doing so, we don't need army tanks. We don't need to kill our folks, but we need to pay our police a respectable wage, because it is a hard job. It's a hard job. So we have to be better and be better public servants. And so unfortunately, who has what contract gets in and mucks things up, when we should come up with solutions with the public and actually render some of the laws that are on the books and be better at doing the jobs that we already have. So
Thank you.
if I can,
Thank you so much.
thank you. I'll go on all day.
Candidate Maraday?
I want to speak specifically to the query about balancing the message around defunding. I think we have to tell people the truth, and I think we have to be smart and stop blowing the dog whistles that incite, redirect, and ill-inform. When we're talking about defunding, we're talking about looking at police alternative diversion funding, 311 funding, wraparound services funding, so that what we're looking at as a public safety model is something that is inclusive and encompasses all of the opportunities that we have for 21st century policing. And so you just saw people go to the right or the left on the basis simply of the word without having any idea of what it actually meant. And so if it means changing the language so that a more inclusive understanding is developed, perhaps therein lies our opportunity, because all of these are a requisite for ensuring that we've got a really good public safety platform and opportunity.
Thank you so much, Candidate Mara. Ms. Rigby?
Next question. I know for the sake of time, I'm trying to get 2 more in. Next question. We currently have tax abatements for persons of a certain age. There's definitely a lack of affordable housing, but also there's a lack of understanding of the real estate, and also a lack of knowledge surrounding things like age-based exemptions, breaks, abatements, etc. What can the candidates do to address this problem?
And I believe that starts off with Candidate Williams.
Hi, as a long-term community advocate that's always involved in educating our residents, I think we need to do a better job of reaching out to those who who qualify for these programs, because they have become victims of folks who are literally stealing their properties. So I believe that we need to have a program that grandfathers and protects people who are age 65, who have been in their properties for 20 years or more, and who are on fixed incomes at the lower level. The fine print is the fine print for a reason. And we need to make sure that our seniors, especially who have held on to their homes for decades, and now all of a sudden they've been swindled out of them. So we need to do a better job on educating, reaching out to them so that we can educate them to prevent this.
Thank you so much. Candidate Labat, question goes to you.
Trying to tap my mute, okay. Thank you for the question. And I do think, again, like I said previously, that affordable is a relative term. And so as elected leaders, we need to do a better job defining the tiers of affordability and what we are actually trying to accomplish and for whom, and set those objectives and hold ourselves accountable. I think that we should do a better job of educating the general public of all ages about the resources and programs that are currently in existence. You have code enforcement, Atlanta Land Trust, you've got Invest Atlanta, all of which offer some sort of resource or education component. And I think we just need to do a better job of making people aware. And then finally, I would support, and I do believe, I was told that the chief housing officer is no longer with the city of Atlanta, or we don't have one. So I would support having someone fill that position, because we have to take housing very, very seriously, and it will vary across the 12 districts of Atlanta in terms of the solutions.
Thank you so much, Candidate Labat. Candidate Long, question to you.
Well, as a real estate broker, I'm not going to be ashamed about touting what I'm good at. That's what I am. So call me for all of your real estate questions. And tell you what to do with your resources, with your real estate. In addition to that, I'll tell you about what option is available, if renting is available to you, or what to do with your estates. I solve estate issues all the time. And so 770-616-2130 with the district realty. And get realtors. If I want to generalize the comment, consult realtors. There are a lot of realtors out there, consult me first, selfishly, but consult realtors if you have questions about where to reside in Atlanta, and they will tell you what's your best options and to line you up on a trajectory towards home ownership or renting a home or anything that you need to do. Unfortunately, I'm on the front line of watching people make some very poor decisions, and I have to stop and, educate them as to what to do with their properties. And it's painful to ride through Atlanta sometimes and see missed opportunities that I know proud families were in those particular homes, and they lost out on wealth. And we just have to be better stewards of that. So consult your real estate brokers. That's what they're there for. Consult your realtors, and they'll answer those questions and help you with it. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Candidate Meriday?
Indeed. This is a part of my housing services to seniors program. I think we have to do grassroots door-to-door education with our seniors in the same way that we look to increase participation politically. I think we have to have a mail program that is a part of what it is that we execute by way of our offices. I think we have to execute in partnership with the banks that are doing business in our communities to do financial literacy. To ensure that our seniors are aware and receive the assistance that they need to take advantage not only of these programs by virtue of the application process, but they often will miss out on by virtue of the technology. So I think it's a bigger picture kind of a solution. And looking at districts 9 through 12, the communities that we represent, there's no group that I'm more passionate about. I was raised to revere and respect my elders, and a part of what it is that I want to do by way of this body of work is to be there for them to ensure that they are okay.
And Candidate White's question to you.
I think my colleagues have pretty much nailed it tonight. I think that there is a lot of information out there that our seniors as well as low-income families miss out on. I think that for low-income homeowners and legacy residents, specific to seniors and low-income individuals, I certainly am looking forward to working with my former colleagues in the General Assembly to ensure that we provide greater relief in terms of taxes and spiking taxes for those who live in these specific neighborhoods that have experienced these spikes. I think there's also an opportunity to put information in our water bills, in our tax notices, because as they indicated earlier, many people are not even aware of that. For seniors, their discount is for your water bills, for your utility bills and so forth. And so there's an opportunity. United Way had a program currently running for rental assistance, but in the very beginning, there was assistance for mortgage holders. And so again, as I speak with people, no one is aware of that. So I think that there needs to be PSAs as well as social media campaigns to get this information out so that we are educating our citizens. And I think that many of us can possibly play a role in terms of being an ambassador, whomever is successful in this role.
Thank you so much for those answers. Due to time, I'm going to go ahead and allow the candidates to do their closing statements. And with that, we're going to go in reverse order. As we opened up with Candidate Labat, we will close starting off with Candidate Williams. Candidate Williams, you have 1 minute to give your closing statement of why the city of Atlanta should vote for you.
Thank you. I'm Sherry Williams, and I am a servant leader. I have a lifelong body of work. I have solutions for the problems that our city is experiencing as the tale of two cities. By bringing all the stakeholders together and no longer accepting excuses for having a tale of two cities. I think that our current city council has failed us. I think I am the person who can step up and hold people accountable, because that's what I do right now. And that's why I was asked to step up and run for this position. And again, I'm going to fight for our citizens of Atlanta with an equity lens, those who are underserved and disenfranchised, the same way I fought breast cancer all 4 times, like a bulldog. Thank you.
Thank you. Reverse order, candidate Waits.
Sure. Thank you again for hosting this evening. To anyone, each of us who are successful in the campaign, I'm committed to working with you. I live in the city. I'm a homeowner and a small business owner here. And certainly I am happy to see that we have such a impressive group of people who are sincere about working with our communities and our city. Again, COVID-19 changed the way that we do business, and certainly we have to change with that. We've had so many challenges in the past, and it is my hope that we can start to move some of these conversations forward. As many of you are aware, we will have a brand new city council and hopefully a new mayor. And with that, I think ombudsmanship will be extremely important, as well as institutional knowledge. There is an adversarial relationship between the city and the state of Georgia. There's a desire to take over the airport and for Buckhead to break off. And so I think that you will have to have existing relationships with the General Assembly. And I think that, that's something that I uniquely bring to the table. It's not a whole lot of time, but again, I thank you for this discussion tonight, and I look forward to continuing the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Candidate Meriday, you have a minute for closing.
Yes, thank you. I think what I'd like to share is that I arrived day one ready, with the distinction of navigating or having navigated Atlanta through a crisis. I have a master's from London School of Economics and Political Science in complex emergencies. I'm not new to solving the kind of problems and crises that we are finding ourselves immersed in, and I am ready to not only provide the solutions, but to extend some of the work that I've already been doing to ensure that what we're doing is addressing the systemic and institutional barriers that allow our city to move forward. And those, of course, will include what we're doing with education, transportation, affordable housing, and 21st century policing that is community-based. You can visit my website, www.jodymeriday.com, for more information and to allow for us to have a little bit more time together for me to give a more intimate picture of what it is that I'd like to do as your Atlanta City Councilwoman for Post 3 at large. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And candidate Long.
Thank you. My name is Ralph Long. I'm going to ask you for your vote for Atlanta Post 3 City Council. I'm a former state representative, and I have the experience to know that constituent services means that you're ready for it and sincere. You're ready for transparency and ethics. And that's why, as of yet, I'm the only candidate to give out my cell number repeatedly, 770-616-2130, because I want to tackle your issues and I'm not afraid to talk to you. So the city is Post 3. This is at large. So as a former state representative, my district traversed across 3 cities, Atlanta, East Point, and College Park. Along with my colleague Waits, she's not unique to it, but we can walk on the state floor to lobby on behalf of the city of Atlanta. And I think that experience is most definitely paramount and going to benefit people across the city of Atlanta, because we have to have unifiers in office. And I'm not endorsing her, but I'm just saying that, being a past legislator and she being my colleague, most definitely I can tout some of that experience. This is a large race. This is at large. So call me for your issues, and I'm ready to serve you. And thank you for tonight. I appreciate you.
Thank you. And to finish it out, candidate Labat.
Thank you to the League of Women Voters, the ACLU, GABWA, and the Pi Alpha Omega chapter of AKA. I thank you all for hosting us tonight. My name is Jackie Labat. I am a public servant at heart. I love Atlanta. I am looking to bring a fresh perspective and a collaborative spirit to City Hall. I think Atlanta is in need of new leadership that will work as a uniter to bring people together in spite of their differences, to compromise and do what's best for Atlanta as a whole. Again, I'm focused on crime and public safety, our infrastructure and affordable housing, and I am so passionate about our youth. So I want to see a safer Atlanta, a thriving Atlanta, and a city that's full of opportunities for our youth. Ask for your vote November 2nd, and you can learn more about me at Jackie for Atlanta. That's Jackie with no E, JACKI for Atlanta.com, and follow all of my social media, which is at Jackie for Atlanta.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I will now turn it over to Kathy Carpenter.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for attending the City of Atlanta Council Post 3 at-large candidate forum this evening. I'm Kathy Carpenter, and I'm the VP of Membership with the League of Women Voters, Atlanta Fulton County. Thank you to Nicola Hines, our president of the League of Women Voters, Atlanta Fulton County, for being our moderator tonight. And thank you to our candidates, Jackie Labatt, Ralph Long, Jody Meriday, Keisha Waits, and Sherry Williams, for taking the time to engage and educate the residents of Atlanta and Fulton County. And special thanks to our Voter Services Committee for all your hard work and dedication to the League. Of course, voting is vitally important for national and state elections, but participating in your local elections is also important because it starts the change that is needed within your community. Your council members, mayors, sheriffs, district attorneys, and judges should have a strong connection to your community and be a true voice. And the only way to make that happen is to go to the polls as an educated voter. Once again, thank you for attending. And if you would like more information about joining the League of Women Voters, Atlanta Fulton County, you can go to our website at lwvaf.org/join. The League of Women Voters is one of the most respected civic activist organizations in the country. And we are proud, the Atlanta Fulton County chapter, we are the oldest and the original chapter. We welcome members from all sides of the aisle, race, gender, religion, or sex. We are political, but nonpartisan, and never endorse any political candidates or parties. We mobilize citizen action for a better and more informative America. Thank you and good night.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being a part of our